This is a Louie Tee Network exclusive.
And yo, who else could it be but me? Join me, Louie Tee. Welcome. You are in the lab room, of course. I'm your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me on the 2016 NFL Draft Prospects 101 series. Your guide to some of the biggest and hottest names. The 2016 NFL Draft. We're talking cornerbacks, man, and the first name that comes off anybody's tongue when we start talking about defensive backs in this draft is none other than Florida State defensive back, Jalen Ramsey. I was exposed to Jalen Ramsey, I'd say 2 years ago when they won the national championship. He was a huge part of the reason why that undefeated team led by Jameis Winston, he was a guy that came to Florida State as a corner, moved him to safety, thought he was instrumental in them winning that national championship. And he was able to go back to the cornerback position, and this guy's so versatile. Let's talk about Jalen Ramsey. I don't want to give you his whole bio. Let's talk about this guy, why I feel like he's going to be one of the better players in this draft and one of the most highly sought after at the top of this draft. Tremendous size and length at the cornerback position. This is a day and age where defenders, we're looking for the longest guy we can find at defensive back. It's a trend now, and the Seattle Seahawks started that with the Legion of Boom, where everyone's trying to find their Richard Sherman. Everyone's trying to find their long, rangy corner that can run, that can make plays, that's never out of the play. And really, you can go back to Nnamdi Asomugha was when it really started, where you started to see these influx of big corners. And we've seen big corners before. One of the greatest corners in NFL history is Michael Haynes, a guy that was long, rangy, could run like the wind. And Jalen Ramsey reminds me a lot of him now. Not as physical, but I think he's a guy that does a lot of the same things and has that same body type, a big, long, rangy corner that can run really, really fast. Speaking of which, outstanding athlete is the next pro. Here's a guy that is a track and field star, a guy that was talking about wanting to go over to Brazil and Rio for the 2016 Olympics. He's a guy that long jump. He's a guy that can run. He's a sprinter. This is a guy that has outstanding athleticism, and you see it translate to the football field, whether he is in the slot, he's out wide, he's at safety, he's coming on the corner blitz, you name it, he can do it all on the football field. And a lot of that stems from the fact that this guy is a supremely gifted athlete. He's gonna rip it up at the combine. You can bet your bottom dollar. If he doesn't pull a hammy or anything of the nature or sort, he's gonna be one of the top finishers in just about every category at the combine. He's gonna light it up. And I know that for a fact just by looking at the guy. He's gonna run a fast time. He's gonna jump really, really high in the vert. His broad jump is gonna be insane because he's an explosive football player. So I expect all of those things. I wanna see him open up his hips. I wanna see him turn and run. Those are the things I'm looking for because I know all the timing drills, he's gonna light it up at the combine because he's that type of athlete. Plays with physicality. He's a guy that will come in, and let's go ahead and talk about him tackling as another pro. He will tackle. Now, is his tackling form the best? Absolutely not. But look, I'm not here to give anybody a lesson on tackling, head up, all of that stuff, see what you're hitting. Look, I just want you to get the guy on the ground. And it's never pretty with Jalen Ramsey. Never pretty. Half the time, he doesn't even get the guy on the ground. But he stops him. He doesn't allow him to pick up more yardage. And if you gotta tackle a guy up around his neck, if you gotta hold a guy by his chest and stop his motion and forward progress, whatever you gotta do to stop a play, I'm all for it. And Jalen Ramsey generally does that. Will come in, be physical, will take on blockers, will get in the way. And look, when you're an ex-safety, that's a part of the job. And I think Jalen Ramsey benefited from playing safety at Florida State as well. Versatility. I just talked about him playing safety at one point at Florida State. We know about him coming to Florida State as a cornerback. This is a guy that can play out wide, he can play in the slot, he can play safety, he can play every position in the secondary. You can move him around, he blitzed. That's another pro. Let's go ahead and lump that in here while we're talking about it. He blitzed well, very effective blitzer off the corner, whether he's out wide as a cornerback blitzing off the corner or he's coming from the slot as a slot blitzer. He blitzed a ton at Florida State, and he's really good at it. He times it up well. He's explosive, so he gets on the quarterback quickly, can shed blockers and get to the quarterback. He's a havoc wreaker when he comes off the edge as a blitzer. So you get versatility out of him. The ability, I thought in 2014 versus Miami, huge game he had. I mean, he was all over the field, making tackles, breaking up passes, and he had the game-clinching interception in the slot versus the tight end. That's the kind of versatility you get from Jalen Ramsey, a guy that can just about do it all in the secondary. I think that's why a lot of people are so high on Jalen Ramsey in this draft. Press cover corner, you know how I feel. You already know how I feel about cornerbacks who love to come in your face, delete the airspace, and challenge you and let you know I'm gonna be here all day, homie. You better get ready, man. Put your big boy boots on. We about to get it in. And so he's one of those dudes that will come into the face of the receiver and lay hands on them repeatedly. To me, at times that can be demoralizing for a receiver, especially the ones that don't like to get dirty, who don't want to be physical. Jalen Ramsey, not the guy you want to be up against, because he's going to get in your face and he's going to challenge you. And you know how I feel about corners, and cover corners more importantly, that aren't afraid to mix it up at the line of scrimmage and lay hands on receivers. There's drawbacks to that, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on, but I love it. I love that dog, that alpha male in the cornerback that says, hey man, what's good with you? You ready? Because I'm about to touch you all day long. I'm about to lay hands on you. You better be ready. And that's Jalen Ramsey in a nutshell. Playmaker, okay? I would have loved to have seen him pick more passes off. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, but he's around the football a ton. Whether he's blitzing and deflecting the football, he knows he's not going to make it to the quarterback. Quarterback looking to throw the football, he's going to get his hands up. He's a playmaker. Prime example, the tight ball game versus Boston College. He is right around the football, and much like my man Sean Taylor, may he rest in peace, he swoops down like a hawk on the prey and snatched the football up that was on the ground loose and scored a touchdown in one fell swoop in motion. It was beautiful. Never broke stride, just snatched the football up with one of his big paws and took off with the football and scored a touchdown for Florida State to put Boston College away. He's a playmaker. He's a guy that will impact the game. He'll reach his hand in the cookie jar. There was one play. They were playing against someone, I can't remember, but he reached his hand in the cookie jar early in the ball game. Came out with the football. It was a beautiful play, and those are the type of plays that playmakers make. And he's always, and I mean always, looking for a strip. So if you're loose with the football, you don't want to be around number 8, because Jalen Ramsey is going to stick his hand in a cookie jar, and it's up to you whether he comes out with a cookie or not. And he is definitely a guy that was a playmaker at Florida State and looks to continue to be one moving on to the next level. Outstanding special teams player. Now, that's something that, you know, is an added bonus. Normally when you talk about guys at the top of a draft, they're okay special teams players, but that's not their cup of tea. They're not guys that are selling out on special teams. Not Jalen Ramsey. This guy is the first one down on punts as a gunner. He's the guy that's making a tackle on kickoffs. He even blocked the extra point on one game that I saw. I mean, Jalen Ramsey is everywhere on special teams, and again, it speaks to the athleticism, and it speaks to his competitive nature. Guys take extra points off generally. Not Jalen Ramsey. He's looking to block your extra point. If you're not careful and you don't have a clean, flawless execution on your extra point, he'll come around the corner, jump in the air, and I told you this guy's a leaper, and he'll block your extra point. And he's the first one down on punts. So as a gunner, you got to be careful as a punt returner, because this guy's coming down, and if you don't call for a fair catch, you can get blazed. So look, there are a number of things to like, to love about Jalen Ramsey as he declared for the NFL draft. Let's talk about his cons, however, because for all the good that he does, there are some things that I still question with him. Let's talk about them. Can be a bit of a head case. Now, sometimes, I'm a guy, I love aggression. Football is an aggressive sport. The most aggressive guy generally wins. But there's something to be said about keeping your head about yourself when you're on the football field and not getting penalties because of your losing your cool, like Aqib Talib did in the Super Bowl. Can't do that. Can't have that. Can't have guys picking up dumb personal foul penalties or stupid taunting penalties. None of that stuff. You can't have it. It hurts the football team. But he's a guy he's a clapper first and foremost. He's a clapper, okay? He wants to get in a guy's head, and I think you can actually go against him and get in his head. Watching him in the Miami game in 2014, he got into it with, I want to say it was like number 44. He lit him up. He lit him up. Did number 44 on special teams, and it was a really kind of a blind hit on Jalen Ramsey. Who wasn't expecting him. Lit him up. Okay, knocked him down. So then they get on offense, and he's blocking Jalen Ramsey. And, you know, after the play was over, Ramsey got in his ear, and the guy said something to him, and he kind of bumped Ramsey. And Ramsey's clapping next to his helmet as close as he could get without touching it. Really loud, and that's something he loves to do. He could have easily been flagged for that. And at the next level, probably will get flagged for taunting if he does something like that. There was another play. Hits a guy. He's one of those guys that loves to stand over you and look down at you after he's put you down on the ground. That's an easy 15-yard penalty at the next level. And there was one play, I want to say it was either NC State or Louisville. I think it was Louisville. Tackles a guy out of bounds. He stands up, puts his balls and everything all in the dude's faces. He's trying to get up. Really unnecessary stuff. He actually was thrown out of practice at Florida State 2 years ago, where they told him he needed to calm down some of his aggressiveness. It's a practice where guys aren't really going as hard, and you don't want your quarterback being hit. Jameis Winston was there at the time. He comes flying off the corner on a corner blitz, blows the running back up, who hits the ground and falls into the legs of Jameis Winston after head coach had already told him, stop it. Stop your aggressiveness. It's not needed. Do what I tell you to do. He went and did what he wanted to do, and he got tossed out of practice. So again, he's a guy that can be a bit of a head case. Now, look, you know Josh Norman is a head case. I call him Jay Nutso for a reason. I think Jalen Ramsey has a little bit of that in him. So I could see him getting into it with a guy like Odell Beckham Jr. Two guys who think they're alpha males, who neither one is backing down. I could see Jalen Ramsey getting into a scuffle like that with some player in the league who's not backing down from his antics, and he isn't willing to take a step back and allow a situation to breathe. So that's something worth noting and keeping your eye on with Jalen Ramsey. Does he have great hands? For a guy that I talked about being a playmaker, we all know the infamous drop he had in the playoff game versus Oregon in 2014. Early in the ball game, Marcus Mariota taking Oregon down the field. Jalen Ramsey has a chance to change the game with an interception. Now, I don't quite remember what Oregon did on that particular possession, if they ended up scoring or not, but it was a chance to pick Marcus Mariota off. I believe they ended up getting a touchdown. They may have ended up going for it on fourth down. That may have been the possession where they go for it on fourth down, and Darby comes up and hits the running back out of the backfield, Marshall, and dislodges the football, and they don't pick it up. But it could have also been one of those early possessions where they got a field goal or got a touchdown. So not quite sure, but he dropped the football. Easy interception. Could probably catch it 10 times out of 10 in his sleep, but he dropped it on that particular play. There's another play down by the end zone against Louisville. An opportunity, this is a tight ball game, opportunity to really change the game. Down by the end zone, Louisville driving for points. He diagnoses a play beautifully. He sees what's going on, and he's in perfect position to not only pick this off, take it the other way, pick six to the house call. Phone was ringing. Jalen Ramsey didn't pick it up though. And now, I thought he was being extra on the play. He jumps in front of the receiver and does this stretch. I didn't think he needed to do that. I thought he could have just took off, stayed on his feet, picked it off with his hands, and took off the other way. But he decided he wanted to jump in the air and stretch, whatever. Okay, just make sure you catch the football. Well, he dropped it. I don't think he has really good hands. One of the few times I saw him catch an interception, caught it with his body. I'm not sure that he can catch very well. I want to see him at the combine catching the football with his hands clean in order for him to sell me on the fact that he can make plays on the football. And on that turn and chase drill, when he's got to turn his hips and he's in a trail technique and he's going after the football, I want to see him high point the football and come down with it, not wait till it comes down and basket catch it, because I think he may not have great hands. I want to see him at the combine catch the football. Needs to locate the deep ball better in coverage. There are a couple of times where he's right there in the hip pocket of the receiver, step for step, stride for stride with the receiver, and he just fails to locate the football on time. It's underthrown, like in the Louisville game, it's underthrown. He keeps going because he locates it late. Receiver already put on the brakes because he knows where the football is and makes the catch. And he ends up scoring on that play, as a matter of fact. Again, Jalen Ramsey, he's in position just about every single time when you're talking about ball down the field. It's a matter of just locating the football on time and making a play. This guy in trail position, maybe one of the best in this draft class at make-up speed and making a play on the football. In trail technique, this guy is phenomenal. A lot of his breakups, he's a step behind the defender, but because of that length and his ability to close the distance between he and the receiver, he's never out of a play. So I just want him to locate the football, see what's going on, know where the football is so that you can make a play on the football. He can be beat off the line of scrimmage with his jams with quickness. Now, again, I'm not going to beat a guy up for coming up and pressing, but if you're going to press, make sure you do it correctly. Don't open your hips up too soon. Don't allow a guy to get inside. You open up your hips to the outside, he runs a slant inside, you're beat. Because you jammed in the line of scrimmage, you let him win to the outside, and then he breaks it back off inside. You turn your hips to the outside, now he's going inside, you beat. And I saw that happen a couple of times where the shifty guys gave him a little bit of problems, but the big guys, he was all over their ass like a blanket in the middle of the wintertime. So I want to see him be able, and those little guys, you need to get a better jam on them. Those little guys, and make them pay at the line of scrimmage because you know they're probably going to be quicker than you are. So with Jalen Ramsey, I think it's big for him. If he's going to come up and press and get in the face of a receiver that's shifty, he needs to make sure he lays hands on him very well in order to disrupt the timing of the route. Saw a couple of times when guys were able to beat him off the snap with pure quickness. But other than that, there's a lot to like here with Jalen Ramsey. I'm talking about a guy that can come in and change the game right away. Anytime we're talking about a top 5 corner, a lot of times you don't see teams missing. When we talk about corners and them being the truth, like a Patrick Peterson, generally we don't get this stuff wrong. And I think he's another one of those can't miss prospects at the cornerback position. You put him in the right system, and I think this guy's just going to take off. He gets with the right defensive coordinator that uses all of the many talents of Jalen Ramsey. We could be talking about this guy being a Pro Bowler in year 1 and an All-Pro in year 2, and that guy can just take off from there. There's a lot here with Jalen Ramsey that I think you can do something with him right away and make this guy an impact plug-and-play player from day number 1. A couple of things I want to see him clean up at the combine. A couple of questions I have that I want to see him clean up at the combine. Either way, this guy, to me, can't miss prospect at the cornerback position. That's Jalen Ramsey and his draft prospects 101 breakdown. If it happens in the National Football League with a big or small, cover it all here in the lab. Come back and join me as I continue to break down anything and everything in the National Football League. More corners. That's right. Come on back. We'll break them down.
There's plenty more where that came from. While you're here, subscribe to the channel. If you want more Louie Tee, be sure to follow me on Twitter at In The Lab Room, or you can like the Facebook page at In The Lab Room. That's In The Lab Room on Facebook and at In The Lab Room on Twitter. Don't forget, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so.